The admin control panel is one of 4 panes in the Dungeon Builder game space. While there are some features that players will have access to, the control panel is principally of concern to game masters for setting up their campaigns. Once the setup is complete, both the game master and players will seldom have need of this pane and will probably just hide it. However, as the topic of today's tutorial is the admin control panel, we'll spend a little bit more time with it. The admin control panel consists of 4 tabs that control the configuration of different aspects of the Dungeon Builder environment. The first tab is called Admin, and it is more of a future-looking tab as most of the controls on it are for future functionality. One control that is operational is the measurement control over here. It allows players to change the measuring system that is used for various aspects of the game, such as movement rates and the physical dimensions of monsters. So you can display your movement rates in either meters per second or feet per second just by changing this switch. Moving on to the Character Setup tab, this panel has 4 controls that are used to configure both player and non-player characters. I'll start with these 3 list boxes over here as they're fairly straightforward. Each list box contains valid values for race, class, and religion that are used on your character sheet. You see the values that show up here are used to populate the drop-down list boxes that appear on the Character tab. So as you can see here, we have a specific race of a Borg, as well as a specific class of a Steward, and we have a bunch of common classes. If we look at the PC Create tab, we can see character races, and there's the Borg, and there are those common races that apply to all game masters. Similarly, for classes, we'll be able to see the Steward class, as well as all the other common classes. So whatever you enter here ends up appearing as valid values when you create your characters. Now you'll notice that the listing has 2 categories to it, those that are common and those that are specific to your campaign. Items in the common subcategory are defaults that come with Dungeon Builder and have been reserved. We have done this to make it easy for folks to move characters among different worlds. By having a common name for some races and classes, this enables a character who is a gnome in one world to transfer over to a gnome in another world without having to change races. Now in this version of Dungeon Builder, we do not define attributes for each race or class. They are just labels. That said, future versions of Dungeon Builder may apply attributes to classes and races, such as movement rates and special abilities. Now, if you want to add your own races, classes, and religions, all you have to do is click on this little plus sign up here. Then I'll enter the label Navi. And it appears in my personal races. Now taking a look down here, we can see that the Navi race now appears as a valid option. Removing and renaming the items you define is equally simple. If you want to rename your race or class, just select it and then click this little pencil and you'll be able to change the name. If you want to delete it, just click this minus sign and it will delete that particular race or class. Now one caution is that when you do this, if you have any characters who use those races or classes, they're going to end up going to default blank for those values. So you'll have a character without a class or a character without a race. So use some judgment when doing this. Now turning to the standard character generation widget over here, this is used by the game master to define the standard die rolling method used to create characters in his or her world. In this example, the convention is to roll 4 dice 6 and throw out the lowest dice. When you click on this edit button here, up comes the configuration window which the game master uses to define what die cup he wants to use for rolling up characters. Here the game master can choose up to 30 dice to use, as well as choose from a broad selection of die types in selecting his die cup. I'm going to settle for something a little more simpler, say 5 die 8. I'm also going to choose to add a modifier of 6 to the die cup, and if I were to click on this per die checkbox, that plus 6 would be added to every die, not just the entire die cup. So all 5 dice would have a plus 6 modifier, where if I leave this unchecked, Dungeon Builder will roll 5 die 8 and then just add a 6, as opposed to adding 30. You can also apply throw out and round up rules. For example, I can choose to throw out the lowest 2 dice here. So it would roll 5 die 8, and whatever the 2 lowest dice were, it would throw that out. Alternatively, I could choose to round up all low values to some higher value, thereby improving my chances of an exceptional character. As you can see by looking at these options, there are literally hundreds of possible combinations that game masters can choose from. Now how this gets used is found once again over on the PC Create tab, where players can choose to enter attributes for their characters either directly or by using the auto roll feature. The auto roll feature rolls the die cup that was specified for each attribute. So you see for this particular game master, he has the die cup of 4 die 6, throw out the lowest value, and that applies to my world. And here is the die cup that will be used in auto-generating any characters. All you have to do is click Roll. And that die cup is used to generate every attribute of the character. And as you can see, it's clearly skewed to higher values. Now what's great about this feature is that you can roll up characters according to the convention of any game master that you play with. As long as the game master appears in your adventure group, all you have to do is select their name from this officiating name drop-down list box, and their convention will be used to roll up characters. Like, for example, we're presently showing my convention, but if I choose this Game Master, it changes to 4 die 2. Probably not a very good cup. I can choose this Game Master, and it changes to 5 die 6 plus 1, throw out the lowest 2 dice. Let's see what that looks like. Clearly some very high numbers. What's more, you can roll up your characters even when you are not playing with the Game Master. And the Game Master does not have to worry about your fudging things. The reason why is that the convention you use to create your character is saved when the character is rolled up. For example, let's look at a character we've already created. I'll go over here to the PC All. And I'll select this particular character here. Gonna run for it. Apparently he's a druid. On the admin tab for this character, you'll see that this character is rolled up using this officiating GM's convention. And here is the die method that was used to roll them up. Pretty neat, huh? Let's now look at setup monsters. The 4 list boxes here work in an almost identical fashion to the characteristic list boxes for characters. Once again, we can see there are common and specific subcategories. While common characteristics cut across all campaigns, you can add your own classes, attacks, movement types, and languages to your campaign. And where this all gets applied is on the monster tab. So I'm going to add a monster class here of fungi. And I'm going to add an attack form of infection. And then what we'll do is we'll go over to the monster tab and see those values. Looking first under monster class, we can see that under my classes, there is the fungi now. And when I look at attacks, I'm going to add a new attack here. There's an attack of infection. And the same principle holds true for movement types and languages. And that's really it for the Setup Monster tab. It's a very simple tab to administer. The last tab on the admin control panel is the Encounter tab. And although this is a pretty simple tool to use, it takes a while to describe, so we've done a separate video just on this widget alone. And that is all I wanted to talk about in this tutorial. Thanks for watching.